And so I'm going to start with a basic principle. You guys know I love acronyms, and so I'll give you one to write down, and hopefully it'll make sense over the weekend to kind of be a framework as you put different notes together and think about it. This acronym is really simple, BAT, B-A-T. Believe, act, and transcend. Believe, act, and transcend. What I want to talk about is what I refer to as the box. Because leaders believe, act, and transcend the box. And some of you may be saying, well, what is the box? And a lot of times I like to say managers manage the box, inside the box. Leaders figure out how to transcend the box. Now, in Tough-Minded Leadership by Joe Batten, I love this when he says this, managers abound, but leaders are still at a premium. Managers manage inventory, supplies, and data. They are number crunchers. Leaders catalyze, stretch, and enhance people. Managers push and direct. Leaders pull and expect. Leaders are exhilarated by identifying and enhancing their people's strengths. You know, when you think about things that we've watched transcend, how many folks remember back in the day, like when a new album came out, you went to like the local record store? Like, remember there were record stores? Like, I would run after school, I would live in Philly, get on the trolley, go down the Sound of Germantown, run inside, and the biggest decision was I going to buy the plastic, the vinyl, right? Because the vinyl was so precious. Or was I going to get the cassette tape? You got the cassette tape sometimes, you ran home, and you put it in your boombox, Radio Raheem style in Philly, okay? You put it in the boombox, and you played the song, and then after you heard the song you really liked, what'd you have to do? Press the rewind button and wait, hoping that you remembered the counters, right? Then CDs came along, and it was like a massive evolution. Like, oh my God, I can actually hit a button and go from song to song when I want to. And then I can like rewind it. And when CDs came along, my family went crazy, okay? Little known fact, my parents were from Florida and Baxley, Georgia, and I was the firstborn up north. I was actually light-skinned when I was born. I had a condition called yellow jaundice, they call it, okay? Some of y'all will get that later and understand what I'm talking about, okay? But every summer, we go down to Florida for like 2 months, and we get in the car, we load the car up. Now, back in the day, if you remember when CDs were out, remember we all had those nice CD cases? Some of us have bought furniture, right, with the things to put the CD slots in. We get in the car, they head to Florida, and we'd be ready to pull off, and I go, oh my God, I forgot. My dad would like, go back in the house. We run back in the house. I would come out with the CD case. I'd have 2 cases. We get in the front seat of the car, and my job was to be the in-the-car DJ on the way to Florida. And I was so proud. I had the mix set up. I had a little Parliament Funkadelic for Pops. I had a little Temptations for my mom, right? Run DMC and them had just came out. I had my stuff. And then somebody, now remind you, none of us were picketing that CDs were too laborious for us. Nobody said, oh my God, stop it, I can't take it anymore. But somebody came along and said, you know what? I think there's a better way. I believe there's a better way. And I'm gonna take action, and I'm gonna transcend what's become known as the box, because the interesting thing about the box is not always necessarily painful, but it can be complacency. It has become the norm. It has become the tradition in the expected way, underline the expected way. And so somebody came along and said, I think I can make this easier for you, and I can take your trail of CDs. I will make your furniture irrelevant. I will make those bags you walk around with irrelevant, because I'm gonna take everything you have and put it in a simple device with a little spindle and a button. How many of us tossed out a lot of CDs? Right? I mean, they became Frisbees, kids were playing in the park. The next one I think about is the pager, the first mobile phone. Now, when the pagers came out, I was working at JP Morgan Chase, and I remember how desirous I was of my first pager. This was a big deal. Like, I could have something on my hip that somebody could page me. And I don't know about you guys, but in my car in Philly, my old dusty car had a Volkswagen 73 Beetle that I was very proud of, one fender falling off. but I was proud of it. And I'd have a little roll of quarters. So if you page me, I wanted to immediately pull over and get to a payphone and call you back, right? And then when the two-way pager came out, oh my God, right? Then somebody came up with what? The bag phone. Some of us went to Pep Boys, okay? And bought a big old bag phone. I remember this in Philly, it was ridiculous. People be on South Street with the bag on their shoulder. Yeah, baby. Yeah. Where I'm at, I'm on 4th and South with the bag phone. But then somebody came along and said, well, I'm going to make that easy as well. Again, we weren't complaining. Someone saw the opportunity, felt the obligation, they believed, they acted, they transcended and helped the market come alive. Same thing, I used to be in New York all the time now. I worked at JP Morgan Chase for 11 years. One of the things I can tell you without doubt, getting a cab at 5:15 after the end of the day is nearly impossible. Right? How many of us have faced that? And now we have an easy thing we use called Uber. Right? The largest rental of rooms company in the world owns no rooms. They help transactions called Airbnb. We're all familiar with these now. Now it becomes simple. And we all used to be intimidated by lawyers, whether it's intimidation of going into that office or the fees or the process. And now we have Legal Shield. So the good news is the base and platform on which we operate, someone has already transcended. Mr. Stonecipher started it. Mr. Rip Mason stabilized it and gave us a new go-to-market brand, and Mr. Jeff Bell has taken us on a curve to Vision 2020. Now it comes down to what are our roles as leaders? Because when you think about people like this, in this economy right now, who are tired of walking that walk to work every day, and are looking for ways to either supplement their income or totally reposition their income, we have what we're now calling this gig economy, where people want to have an opportunity to do better for themselves, right? As a leader, and here's another point of transition, don't let me forget this one. Think of how many of us used to walk around with all these materials in our bags, in our trunks, et cetera. I remember I used to do sales somewhere else and used to have in the trunk stacks of papers and whatnot, because I want to make sure I don't miss a sales opportunity, right? I want to make sure I have every pamphlet. Now you have prospect. Let me go back for a second to leadership at its very core and fundamental. This is the typical structure of an organizational chart, leaders at the top. And I think a picture worth 1,000 words, because pictures help illustrate how we think about things. And maybe it's because I'm just a highly visual person, but I need the picture sometimes to help me make the connection. And I think when we think about leadership, it's not who's doing what down in my organization or how the organization is doing. The fundamental question is, how am I serving the organization? The fundamental question is, how am I serving the organization, the people on my team, the individuals, the collective, and how do I make sure that we, the big we, win? When I think about the box, the seriousness of the box is really this. The box is often defined by past occurrences and experiences. How many people in this room have had a box? Somewhere you felt confined. My box was, some of you know this, at 18, 19, my father disappeared. When I was growing up, I never felt like I had my father's approval, okay? Never felt like I could get my father's approval. When he left at the age of 19, when I was 19, I came home one day from school. I'm sorry, I was 17. Came home one day from school, he didn't come home. Next day, I came home from school, he didn't come home. We went through a series of things over the next year or so where unfortunately ended that my pop passed away, but I saw him one more time or two before he passed away. He had gotten on drugs, unfortunately, died of AIDS, passed away. Now, the challenge for me at that time was I never felt like I had his approval, so during the process of his funeral, the hardest part was when they asked me to close the casket. Because that was not only closing the casket on his life, it closed the casket for me on what I felt my potential was. because I didn't have his approval. That put me in an unbelievable box. The box of doubt. The box of I cannot do better. The box of I have tremendous amount of fear because dad's not behind me and I never got him behind me the way I thought I should. People on our teams, on your teams, have boxes. When we use terms like sponsor, it's an unbelievably powerful term. Anybody who's ever worked in the corporate life understands the big difference in meaning between a mentor and a sponsor. Mentors help and give advice freely. They will counsel you. They will nurse you. They will see you on your tough days and give you some advice. Sponsors feel like they have an obligation to help get you to your goal. Does anybody understand the difference? Sponsors believe they have an unbelievable, unsurrendering obligation to get you to the goal you have discussed with them. They take it on. When I was at JP Morgan Chase, I remember one year I was up for promotion to senior vice president and I didn't get it. And I was trying to figure out what happened. And one of my mentors came to me and said, you know, I was in the decision room that day, Rosseau, and while everybody knew you, no one really spoke up to tell your story. I said, well, who would do that? They said, well, your sponsor would. Well, help me understand that. And they trained me and taught me about sponsorship. And that next year, we did a lot of things differently, my sponsor and I. The sponsor takes on that role. You know, in our organization, we even have a term in the commission plan. I don't know how many people realize this sometimes. It's called a mama bonus. Y'all seen it? Oh, you like the mama bonus? I think, yeah, I would. I would like the mama bonus too. The mama bonus, but think about the word mama. If you're in a box and someone, I just want to be real about this for a second. Some of us will go home tomorrow evening, thank God it's not me, but we will go home tomorrow evening hyped about this conference and potentially walk in the house to be greeted by folks who have no belief in what we do. Hello? Some of us will go to work on Monday and talk with a group of folks and be so excited about this weekend, and they have no belief in what we do. Do you think that's not true for your teams as a leader? These are the things that keep people in boxes. Well, guess what? Mamas never let their children be dismayed. Hello? When people tell you you can't be on the football team because you're too fat, what does your mama say? Oh, no, baby, we're going to fix that. Your mama will work out with you. When people say you can't play a certain sport because you're too short, your mama says that's not true. I always see you 2 feet higher. When people tell you you cannot succeed because of all these other things in your past, what does your mama tell you? It just ain't so. And your mama takes a responsibility to help you get there. The leadership imperative, from my humble perspective, is believe, act, and transcend, and teach your leaders on your team to believe, act, and transcend their boxes. Help them understand their boxes. Create a safe environment to talk about their boxes. Does that make sense? Because until you face the boxes, it's hard to act and transcend.